are starting right on time. Yes. Good evening. I'm Bente Torjussen, Executive Director of AVA Gallery and Art Center, and it is my very special pleasure to welcome you to tonight's poetry reading by 6 local poets whose work appear in their recently published collection titled Perhaps It Was the Pie. AVA is thrilled to offer programs like these that broaden our insight into various artistic disciplines and how such experiences can be enhanced through a cross-fertilization of expressions. Just look around at the artwork we have on display here. Wonderful pop constructions by Dave Laro, who is here with us tonight. Dave, where are you? There! These beautiful mixed media paintings by Wayne Neal of Canaan, and in the 2 galleries behind us here, exquisite photographs by the architectural photographer Steve Rosenthal. So I encourage you afterwards also to take a look at the works around you. AVA's future plans will enable us to host an even broader variety of programs that combine exposure to literary, performing, and visual arts. This planned branching out includes modifications and expansion of our facilities, such as transforming our current stone carving studio, which is at the far end of the building. We will transform that into a members gallery, and the stone carving studio will move into a brand new building that will be constructed on a recently acquired adjacent property. So this means that we will also have greater flexibility to feature more integrated art programming for the benefits of artists and community members alike. But back to why we are here tonight. Namely, to listen to and to celebrate the participating poets. They are, in alphabetical order, Anna Anderson of Sharon, Vermont, Doreen Spencer Ballard of Woodstock, Vermont, Beverly Breen of Thetford, Vermont, my former dear neighbor Debbie Franzoni, now of Lebanon, New Hampshire and Castleton, Vermont, Marjorie Nelson Matthews of Hanover, New Hampshire, and Hattie McGraw of Heartland, Vermont. A particular thank you goes to Marjorie Matthews, who has been a liaison between the poetry group and AVA, and who also volunteers for AVA in the planning of our organization's future. And I cannot thank Marge without also thanking husband Jim and son Dan, who always are willing to help in whatever capacity they are called upon. Thank you also to Debbie and Hatsie, who volunteered the services of husbands Bob and Tom, respectively, to help sell the books here tonight. Thank you, Bob and Tom. What we are about to listen to is the result of a 3-year journey during which the poets met twice a month to write and to share their poetry. Many thanks for your commitment to your craft and for sharing your poems with us. And again, a warm welcome to you all. And now Marge would like to say a few words. Welcome.
Thank you, Bente, and thank you to all of AVA for opening its doors to us tonight. It's such a pleasure to be able to read our poetry in this amazing space, surrounded by artwork. And a special thank you as well to Margaret Jacobs, who is the gallery manager and is serving as the camera person tonight as well. She was here setting things up today, and she and Bente have been a tremendous help to us. I was also going to thank Laura Brentrup, who I do not believe is here, but if you saw the beautiful flyer that was out publicizing the readings, that was the creation of Laura Brentrup, and we thank her. And we thank all of you for coming tonight. It's wonderful to see so many friends and fellow writers in the audience. Tonight is a special night for us. We're celebrating this collection of our poetry. Perhaps it was the pie. It's been many years of working, as Benta said, together, sharing our work, responding to our work. And sometimes we just get together and write together. So we celebrate not only the poetry that has come out of that collective effort, but tonight we're also celebrating the bonds we've formed in the years that we've spent together. And they're pretty special people in my life, and I'm very grateful to be here with them tonight. It's my great honor to introduce tonight's first reader, Ina Anderson.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you to go large to the special people in my life. I'm first going to read to you the title poem of the book, which people have commented on in various ways. Perhaps it'll become self-evident through the first poem. I think I only need to say it's all true, and it's a Vermont poem. Perhaps it was the pie. Perhaps it was the pie that did it, but then it could have been the hot dogs. Here at our place, you'd never know the difference. What it definitely was, regardless, was the homebrew Uncle Reggie brought. Big glass carboys with red rubber stoppers lined up against the kitchen wall. That's what Uncle Reggie always did. And revving us up every year he came to the farm for our famous family parties. Parties written up in columns in the Randolph Herald, the Vermont Standard, even the Valley News. Miss Priss from down on the North Road wrote her column really mean, trying to embarrass us, we said. But the best news was the stuff that Betty wrote, full of dirt and giggles, on about how our 76-year-old sister wet her pants laughing when the pigs got loose, and we fed them whiskey so they'd fall over, and we could get them back in the barn. How them pigs got loose in the first place, we'll never know. But we fed them more than a few bottles till they dropped over sideways. Then Uncle Reggie started up the front-end loader and shoveled up them pigs. It was a shame one of them fell off. Way up on high it fell off of, plopped into that extra muddy spot down by the pond. Caused a real stir, it did. But Uncle Reggie's a real ace on that loader. He lifted that porker right up again, lickety-split. It's squealing all the while, squealing so loud as it rode that bucket up high, all the way back to the barn, and heard that barn door slam tight shut behind. Another Vermont poem, but very different, comes out of thinking about monarch butterflies and their plight, and workers on Vermont dairy farms. Migrants. She is a small dog in a blue cardigan. He is in soldier tan. The apples between them are rosy. How loud are the bees and the hum in her ears. The small dog prances, bright flagtail tall in the weeds. Milkweed, I think, haven for migrants, cautiously sipping pink nectar, conscious of chainsaws and sirens, hoping for a license to live. And her tail-top smiles in recognition, dancing with them, offering her welcome. The crows applaud. Yes, 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 it is possible. Don't be afraid. I spent February of last year in India, and this is one of the several poems that came out of that time for me. This one's called Varanasi. The full moon is at our backs, low in the smoky sky. In our boat we are hushed, rocked as the boats rock, rocked in 100 small boats, rocked by Mother Ganga on this auspicious, precious night, on the river, all together, rocked, rocked and blessed. Across the broad ghats, sparks mix with light, light splashes in the dark water, water reflects back to us the red and gold of crackling fires, fires for the burning of bodies, bodies carried for miles on roof racks, on carts, on strong shoulders, to burn in this holy place. The chanting of the priests rises, drums throbbing, moonlight dancing on the jewels on their turbans, their tunics, their slippers, their feet flashing. Branches punctuate the backlight. 10 pyres ready for the lucky bodies to receive their deepest wishes. Stripped now of their cloth of gold thread and red silk, waiting now in the simple white winding sheets, they settle humbly on the careful pyres. Is it a son, a brother, a father who throws the first flame? Smoke rises in 10 tall columns. Coals glow bright in the moonlight air, snap fountains of sparks to illuminate the gathered faces, faces turned upward in duty and joy. How long does a body burn? When does a bone loosen from its joints and fall to the ashes below? When does a skull explode into fireworks? The boys of the Ghat poke at the coals with long poles, poke to ensure the burning is complete, leaving nothing more for the flames. Then gather small piles of half-burned wood to take home to their own hearths. And the last one for me tonight is called Magdalene. Yes, Mary Magdalene, on the shores of the Mediterranean. We reached the shore and gulp the darkness. The sky stars kept waiting. To either side, the dark cliffs rise, freighted with sleeping birds. The wind at my ankles chills the damp hem of my cloak. Now Joseph speaks with his hands, caution become a habit. He steadies the little boat as I climb aboard, chastened by the wildness of the waves. Did our crew of 4 souls slip out unheeded? Did the moon glance? Did the stars betray? Did our cantrip keep at bay the clash of cymbals, the red plumes, the glint of moon on helmets? Did sharp eyes catch our sails, now huge with wind? Out on the open sea, our breath slows in unison. The boat is drawn to the west like a toy on a string. The night streams fold me in oblivion, and now I weep, knowing at last my loss. He is gone, and our work begins. Thank you. The next poet is Doreen Spencer Ballard.
Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight and joining us in celebration. And one of the best things that ever happened to me and my work is joining up with this group of lovely ladies. Been a lot of support. I appreciate it. I am going to be reading 4 poems, and the 4 that I've chosen were inspired by my elderly parents. In recent years, I have spent much time with them, which has brought forth many memories. My father has passed. My mother is still going strong at 95. The first poem is Tulip. Feathered asparagus plumes rise above the wire mesh fence my father built to keep out the deer. His perfect weed-free garden moved with him from state to state, altered in shape and form, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. Now a couple of large planted pots in front of the tiny Florida trailer. I step through the gate with knife ready to harvest green shoots he has left behind, tender, ready for the salad. One folded, velvet-petaled tulip waits in a corner with bud closed tight against this cool spring night. At home, I gently cut its stem to soak up water around the spikes of the ikebana. It opens through the night. Lone red bloom framed by painted dragonflies. Tiny moisture drops sit on widened petals, black center, edged in yellow. The pistil stands upright, a sentinel with yellow tri-cornered hat, within 6 tiny brush-shaped stamens. Nothing is more perfect, not my father's gardens, nor the days life has granted me. My second one is called Sorting Through. It sits light as a feather. When it falls to the ground, I hardly notice the loss, except where ragged edges no longer dig into my palm. I reach down to gather it. Bending close, I see the bit of bone, white, dusty, flat-sheened, stained just beyond my grasp. The human body burned does not reduce to dust. Pieces remain, perhaps from the long bones, femur, tibia, fibula, pelvis, or the thick, strong jaw. My brother walks in slow circles through the hilltop field, swings the bag poked with holes, spreads gray dust that lifts in the wind, flecks of heavier bone settling. I hear my sister's sobs. My mother weeps without sound. Never one to make a disturbance, only her shoulders shake. He sifts down into the alfalfa and clover. Dry-eyed, set apart, I am left to gaze at what endures this bit of bone. All else leaps wildly between mind and heart as I try to sort through to find the place where I know he loved me. My third poem is called A Void. Her first 9 years are still a blur, but clearly, as if yesterday, she sees him with no explanation walk out of her life, never to return. At 94, the void is with her still. There were those shining moments, 4 of us lying with her on the sloped lawn behind the house, watching as she pointed to clouds of faces, shapes, possibilities, complete, as when we listened to her read, watched her plant seedlings, waited to carry the flats to greenhouse benches. When she played hooky, we ran in the summer heat, frigid, frothy brine at Horseneck Beach, eating gritty sandwiches. She was ours then. Later, smells of dinner cooking swept through the house. Tires crunched on gravel, boots thumped up the back steps. We lost her. He would never walk out of her life. She would give up herself first. Quietly, we slipped into the shadows. And my last poem that I'm going to read tonight is called Heading Home. Last leg of a journey, there is that sense within her recent days. Stepping beyond the open screen door, her bare toes grasp the cold dew on grass clipped and stiff. Time is compacting her. Gravity pulls stronger on each lift of foot, movement of leg. The earth seems to groan as she shuffles to the pool, passing the onions, potatoes, squash, the apples heavy on bending branches. She could so easily slip into days of complete ease as when her naked, aching body slides into cool water. Muscles loosen, burning dissolves. She is an orca, spouting and humping its sleek back, black with gray saddle, briefly taking on light, then re-entering the depths. Giant, graceful mammal. But mostly these days, she is an orca beached, drying out, crying for her pod mates to free her, rinse the sand from her mouth, her eyes, to take her home. Thank you.
People who are coming in, there are some seats up front. If someone would like to come up and have a seat. No? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm very excited to see everyone here, and what a splendid place to be able to read poetry. My dog. So this is Tuesday. My dog lingers on his leash. I lie. It's Wednesday. And I'm dogless, but not heartless. Rather, with a full heart, I let my dog run free, tear through deep grass, ticks be damned, run ahead, then back to me to check my plodding progress on the gravel path, then dart away again, stopping only for a dip or a lick at the brook, standing on all fours on a fallen log, balancing like a circus dog on a ball. Only my dog's not fluffy at all. A pup posed in a pom-pom hat? No. My dog's an everyday dog, dressed in fur, stocky, strong, a mix of lab and setter, German shepherd, collie, a dog with nose to follow, legs to run, a loyal dog who comes when he's called, yet smells like the carcass in which he's rolled, gleefully coating his coat with a slick, delicious stink. I bathe my dog in a deep metal tub that belonged to my grandmother. I have no such tub, and my grandmother's dead, but still, my dog comes out clean, shakes his body from tail to jowl, sprays me with musky foam. At home, my dog and I lie together on the couch. Our lies consist of jeweled collars, sticks and stones and meaty bones as big as T-Rex thighs. There is no limit to our lies. At night, he lies in bed with me, fills the space next to mine. My dog keeps me warm. And as I drift off to sleep, he dreams of squirrels, legs quivering, and starts to pant, gives forth a muffled bark. His presence saves me from the dark, this dog I do not own. He gives me comfort, and on Friday, I will feed him. And now for a very different tone, this poem is somewhat autobiographical. It's called Lune de Miel, Honeymoon. They were tired midday in the French village. Restaurants shuttered, stores closed. August. Proprietors on holiday. They were hungry, having toured the chateau, climbed marble stairs, circling back and forth, in upon themselves heraldic shields inlaid into stone-cold floors. Desperate for lunch, tempers swung up and down, back and forth. It was his fault for forgetting how civilized people were, stopping in the heat of day to break from commerce and tend to the business of food and rest. Her fault for not reminding him to purchase something earlier, bread, cheese, a hot croissant, to stave off the inevitable pangs. But they walked not hand in hand, but feet apart, wishing for air conditioning, even a Burger King. Strawberries saved them. Succulent fruit, smaller than those at home, piled high on slanted trays outside a grocery shop. They bought 2 boxes, overflowing, berries unwashed and picked within the hour. To eat, they settled in a grassy field, legs nicked by stiff bramble. Neither spoke. They ate alone in silence until he, or was it she, offered up a berry, the choicest of the lot. Crimson juice staining fingers, held it to her lips, or were they his, and the taste was sweet. I commute from Heartland to Hanover and back to work, and on my commute, I often see, unfortunately, roadkill. And this next poem is a meditation on a deer carcass that I watched over the course of one winter. It's called For the Deer. I used to work with a woman who would have scooped you up from the side of the road, boiled what was left in scalding water, dried you in the sun, bleached your bones to a pearly white, then painted you gold as if your ribs were always meant to be the crown of some ancient king. But I pass you on Route 91, thinking every day it's a shame to watch you decay, while at the same time delighting in your architecture, gradually revealed as snow melts, sand and salt seep into soft organs, crows peck at rancid flesh. Bone by bone you appear, the hull of a mighty ship, a xylophone, rippling piano keys, a harp played by passing tires' wind. I imagine your long legs, the fateful leap that landed you here, or all the ones before that led you through fields to the cool brook where you drank, crystal drops falling from the hairs of your uplifted chin. And my last poem is one that I wrote during Ray Writers. I have an after-school writing club with colleagues at the race. One of my writing colleagues is here. And while the 4th and 5th graders write, we also write with them. And this poem was written about a year ago. And Leslie, I'm apologizing to you, and you'll see why. Manifesto for Earth Week, 2013. I will defend Earth and all four-legged creatures on her, promise to keep my cats healthy by lavishing them with catnip, pet names like boyfriend and bug. I shall allow myself to be overcome with the love of gaudy jewelry, wear it as large as life around my neck, upper arms, and thighs. I will act as one with rich food, pools of olive oil and butter, swim the backstroke in oceans of escargot and quail. I will take shorter showers with water as hot as my skin can stand it because that's the way I like it. I will use previously owned items found in heaps at the local recycling, weave them into my furniture so as to show, not tell. I'll plant gardens of combs embedded with turquoise and alabaster, wear my hair in loops and braids up and down my back. My toaster, I'll unplug. Use a magnifying glass instead. Raisin bread browned to perfection, heated through by southern sun. I'll walk to a school I've never been to, speak a language I have yet to learn, read only words and pictures I can hold in both my hands. To cart groceries, I'll use saddlebags. Boyfriend and bug will accompany me, sniffing the air for red-winged blackbirds as they jog along beside. I'll buy only local food, mangoes and coconuts, which I'll simmer in a sauce of red Egyptian spice. I'll buy a push mower and cut a maze in the side yard. I will hang with my clothes to dry, use salt from my sweat and tears to cure red meat. I promise I will never eat. And our next poet is Beverly Breen. Some of you may know her as Beverly Barton.
Good evening. It's a joy to be here with you and with my dear friends this evening. I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where family folklore, family storytelling was very important. And one of the things that I learned from my dear relatives was that truth and fact are not synonyms. And sometimes that's something I try to use in my poetry. Some of the poems that I'll be reading you tonight, and I'll read 4 of them, come from parts of my family heritage. The first one is called Root Tale. Jenny, marriage spent, planted common daylilies at the house to which she fled. Her ragtag flock of flora tumbled onto the lawn, crowded the crumbling stair, brassy as a gaggle of geese. Jenny's nettled daughter, Mabel, plotted massacre, spilling laundry water laced with salt. Still, mute orange blossoms resurged each year, loudly silent as Jenny's sons who never called. Mabel scattered her mother's ashes on the lily bank behind the house, never told her brothers mother's dead. Graveside, spear-shaped leaves turned back like downstroke of wings before flight. Orange flowers blossom still, necks thrust in full cry. Pistils protrude like tongues from straining throats. This poem is called In February Light. Stretching above the windowsill, nose pressed against the glass, I watched my mother's sandpaper hands wrestle snowy sheets, stiffening faster than her fingers pin them to her lines. She snaps the next sheet, tempts it to sail her in the wind. Hatless, her hair riffles in the breeze. She hunches into her jacket, smiling calls her flock, chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, a girlish, lilting trill from this chunky, skirted figure, bare legs stuck into clumsy boots. Black-capped birds, suited gray and white, alight on branches just above her head. Brave ones flutter near, close as a stolen kiss. Years later, emptying her house, I bury my nose in sheets still scented with her nature. Beachcombing. I have entered the tide from the beaches at Normandy. Around me, ruins and rain shift like the sand beneath my feet. I bob among the waves of my father's nightmares. The bodies, like seaweed twining my legs. Memories of midnight cries leaking into my dreams. A portal he could not close, nor I fully open. And the last poem I'll read to you tonight is slightly different. It's called Leavening. It might also be called While Mary Weeps. Warm as baby's breath, water coddles yeast. By the time I've melted butter and honey in a bath of scalded milk, the yeast has gone to tawny foam. I swirl in flour smooth as cream, thickening to supple dough. I knead, anoint the naked ball in oil, and leave it for the dark to swell. I punch, reshape, and set aside again to rise. I gather wood, flame the fire, sweep, and drape the table. In the oven's heat, the dying yeast respires, the last whispered breath trapped as airy substance forms beneath containing crust. Golden loaves emerge, bread worthy of being broken. Thank you. Our next poet is Marjorie Nelson Matthews, to whom we owe extra thanks for all of the machinations that she's been able to coordinate behind the scenes. So thank you, Marge.
I can't read from the book. My eyes don't work that well anymore. So. As some of you know, I grew up in Hawaii, and the 3 poems that I'm going to read tonight are all rooted in my childhood there. Dinner party. Mother and daughter hang sheets at dawn before the sun reaches their slice of lawn. Before the trades gather steam enough to somersault fabric over taut lines. They hope to beat the rain crawling down Manoa Valley, misting the skirts of Tantalus. The husband calls at 3 to say he's bringing guests for dinner. News that sends the wife to the line weeping, her legs muddy from weeding. She untethers the sheets, dumps them in baskets, moves fast, muttering. The daughter follows, unclips towels, their corners damp, gathers clothespins scattered on the grass. They hide the laundry. The mother fingers the hair beneath her curlers, declares it damp, and wraps a giant scarf round her head, round her neck, down her forehead to her brow, a cloud of blue polyester. They pile in the Ford, drive to Foodland and snatch up cream of mushroom soup, round steak for company stroganoff, and frozen blueberry turnovers. Once home, she browns the meat, adds the soup with a splash of Chianti to elevate it. Turnovers bake in the oven as she showers, does her face, dons black velveteen capris and ballet flats. Her crimson lips curled, she greets the husband, the one people love best, and his fawning admirers trailing behind. The daughter listens from her room, folds sheets and towels as his guests gush over his latest landscape, admire his Eames chair, sip his signature martinis garnished with sweet Maui onion. Louis and Ella sing, "You is my woman now." The guests decline the wife's crackers, soggy with homemade guava jelly, asked to see his studio. The wife steams the rice, pours water into unmatched glasses, and cream into her grandmother's fussy, rose-bedecked porcelain pitcher, the pitcher the husband hates, as much as he hates gooey pecan pie or black velvet paintings hung under the arching lights of Waikiki gallery walls. The crack seed store. For a haole girl from Punahou, the Simoy store at Varsity in Beretania was a temple to the exotic. Glass jars, wider round than my arms could reach, lined shelves floor to ceiling in a small room with dirty floor, dim lights, and strange, vaguely fishy smells. I knew what filled the lihimoy and mango jars, could distinguish by sight the salty ginger from the sweet, the dry lemon peel from the wet. But those jars on the top tier with their green liquids and neon red floating balls scared me, as did the owner when she scolded, "No open jars." Each visit the same dilemmas. Choose the familiar or try something new. Choose what tastes best, crunchy, shredded mango, or what lasts longest, red, salted ginger. Choose selfishly, giant lihimoy plum, or for maximum playground sharing, shredded lemon peel. Or be the pragmatist, take a little of each, never quite satisfied. I choose over and over, never sure, even when the pickled mango touches my watering tongue. Would cracked seed plum have been sweeter and worth all the work? Years ago, they closed the store, sold off the jars, bulldozed the building. The woman still stands before me, scoop in hand, asking, "Which one you want?" And my last poem for this evening. To my sorry excuse for a woman granddaughter. I gave up on you the first time you looked straight at me and smiled. Your fat cheeks dimpling, your saucer eyes twins to your mother's. I stared into those muddy seas and found no flint. If you'd crawled out on Lai'e's ledge, I would have drop-kicked you into the pounding waves. "Away," the milkman cried when you crossed his path. He named you Ghost. I left my howly spirit in a starched and frigid New York town, but I couldn't stop your mother and her China cup ways. She crated her excellent sufficiencies and hauled them with her to tame my son. She didn't even curse you when you tore your way through her, then yanked her breast to her waist. She put on white gloves instead, her heels sinking in Pele's iron red dirt, nibbled cucumber sandwiches, and stirred lemon in her tea. I heard her murmur songs to you, saw you two hide like roaches in the dark corners of my kitchen, unable to look me in the eye for fear you would melt in my fire. Pele knows me. She quaked when my ship sailed into Honolulu Harbor, shed tears of joy and called me sister. Wicked Wahines, Pele and me. You will never enter Pele's house. Your luau feet haven't the steel to endure her fire. Come here, my lambkins, I cooed to your brother. Who's my precious little man? Him I showered with kisses. Around him I threw a protective ring of fire. Not you, you ball of female flesh. I was born spine first, my heart a tough, toned muscle of courage. Like Pele, I have plucked every weak woman atom from me. Not you. You kneel by the sea, weave Lahala strands into baskets to set on your shelves, nests for your fears. You hum songs of heaven and shrink from the noonday sun. Nothing of me courses in you. You of no consequence. You as ephemeral as steam rising from the sea when hot lava licks the waves. A hiss, and you are gone. I'm delighted to introduce the fabulous Debbie Franzoni.
Hello. It was pretty amazing to see everybody. It's great. Hope you all had a nice dinner. I couldn't eat. The things I carry with me. In room 35, Shakespeare class, the radiators simmer, letting go steam slowly. One stood along the wall at the back door entry of our family home. Winter's first stop. Take off boots, hat, mittens, coat, leggings. Lay them carefully to sizzle dry. Night times, the heaters clanked and clanged, and my sister from under covers told of phantom visitors we never got out of bed to see. In the family room with my brother, we dared to sit on the cast iron tubes to bear the scorching heat. Hazards children invite when left on their own to play. The moment, seared significant, reappears unexpected in this old classroom while sitting at these weathered tables, worn thin from elbows resting at the edges, as students lean in to hear King Henry V exclaimed, "Once more under the breach, dear friends, once more these 5 radiators relieve pressure, the hissing steam taking me away from someplace new to someplace where once I had been." On the street, where I live. I hear Molly's call, "Asa, Asa, Asa," before I see her glide past the living room window, open wide to welcome the summer breeze. With her right foot, she pushes hard off the ground, then sets her shoulders in a forward lean. Eyes fixed ahead, she stands steady on her scooter. She is 8, her blonde hair flies behind, and he runs along beside her, or up ahead, which is when she cries, "Asa, come, now!" He is small, a herding dog with black and white paws, made to run. Sometimes her calls sound like a bird, nesting on a branch in the tall pine, claiming its territory. "Asa, Asa, Asa, Asa." The dog would never leave her, but that's the fear that comes from loving hopelessly. This next poem I just would like to give a little introduction to. I had the pleasure of sitting in a waiting room. I had the better part of an operation, in other words. I got to sit in the waiting room, and it was supposed to be a 2.5-hour operation, so after 4 hours I was texting Marge. And I kept texting and texting, and after 5 hours, Marge suddenly said, "I'm coming and I'm going to take you out to dinner and have a cup of coffee." So she did that, and no sooner had she left than I started texting again. So after 6 hours, Marge texted me and she said, "Listen, Jim has just come in from a walk with the dog, and he has brought me a prompt. I'm sending the prompt to you. Write a poem." So I did. Long day at the hospital. I sit in the critical care waiting room. A child screams, and so does his mother. I am distracted by this and the noise outside. I watch the young man pass by the window, brim of his baseball cap shading his eyes. Red muffs cover his ears, like whoopie pies affixed to each side of his head. The way he sits on his little John Deere mower, crouched over the steering wheel, he appears tired, but really, he is just very tall. Occasionally, his knees bump his chin. I watch him lean into the turns. Someone takes the baby to the next room. People surround the mother. The smell of cut grass encircles us, and I remember what was bothering me. He had insisted, despite what I knew, so we set it out. But when we drove down the street, ours was a single red recycling bin sitting at the curb. "Because it's not recycling day," I triumphed. Around and around, cutting away, until the circle made is as tight as the wheels turned hard allow. That, by the way, was the two-poem warning. This is the last poem of the evening. And it is entitled, Perhaps It Was the Wine. After a long day at work, I pour a glass of wine and sit to read my email. My cousin mentions a rented apartment in Venice where she and her husband will spend a month researching his next book. Sitting at my table, I imagine paddling my kayak through canals, trading the tall pines that line our riverbanks for buildings built centuries ago in Venice, Italy, the most romantic city in the world, where I imagine one waking to the sound of a tray placed on the bed, the morning paper, a rose in bloom, an espresso with a heart floating on the foam under sinuous curls of chocolate. I grab my scarf draped over the arm of the old recliner, raise it high and let it flow behind as I run between table and couch, singing. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. When the earth seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. I stop at the computer and reread my sister's last line. My cousin's last line. I secretly think he's doing it for me. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling. Like I said, that's amore.
Why we let Deb in the group. Please help yourselves to cheese, crackers, and wine. We'd love to visit with you, and thank you again for coming out and helping us celebrate the new book.